Hey guys, we're continuing to press through Mark 11. And if you remember last time, Jesus was heading into town. He got hungry and he saw a fig tree and he came up to it, but it didn't have any fruit on it. It had a bunch of leaves. And so he curses the fig tree. And then when he gets into the temple, he looks around and he sees all the religious activity. They're buying and selling sacrifices and they're exchanging money for the temple tax, all in preparation for the Passover. And so they seem to have this fruitfulness for the Lord, but really what Jesus realizes that on the inside, they're dead. And they had turned what was meant to be a house of prayer into a den of thieves, into a marketplace. And on his way out of town, after turning over tables and running everybody out on his way out of town, they see the fig tree. And Peter says, "Hey, look, Lord, look at the fig tree." And Jesus then turns to his disciples and he starts teaching them some lessons, some three keys, three staples to having fruitfulness for the Lord. So let's take a look at those. We're going to begin in Mark 22. So Jesus answered and said to them, "Have faith in God." So let's stop there for just a minute. I find it interesting that every time Jesus does something that we have these men that are shocked. And Peter sees this withered fig tree and he says, "Lord, look, it really is withered like you said it was going to be." Like he didn't know whether Jesus could actually do that or not. You think about everything that he'd seen. You compare that withered tree to Jesus calming the storm with his voice. That tree's nothing. But I don't think we're much different. We have a crisis come into our lives and we see how God handles that. And then another crisis comes and we think, well, I don't know if he can handle this one. But Peter is struggling with faith. Jesus says, have faith in God. He doesn't say believe in God, believe that he exists. That's good to do. But he says, have faith in him, trust in him. Let me illustrate it this way. You imagine you're sitting on a couch in peacetime watching TV and your friend comes up to you, grabs you by the hand and he says, "Come follow me, trust me." You'd say, "No, get away from me. I'm not doing that." But if you're in battle and you've got bombs going off and guns being shot and you're in the trenches and your captain comes up to you, grabs you by the hand and he says, "Follow me, trust me," how are you going to respond? He's safety. That's your redemption. So maybe the better question is for us in believing in God. Do we obey God? If we really believe God, if we really have faith in God, we're going to trust that what he tells us is actually what's better for us. He put the world together. He knows how it's supposed to run. He knows what's better for us in the long run. But do we trust him in that? And then look what he says in the next verse, verse 23. "For assuredly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, 'Be removed and be cast into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. And therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask, when you pray, believe that you will receive them, and you will have them." Jesus says, have faith in God, therefore turn to him, pray to him, who can answer prayers. So what is he talking about here? Well, he's not talking about the power of our faith, that if we can muster up enough faith, then he can answer our prayers. He's not even talking about the power of prayer. He's talking about the power of God. Having enough faith in him that we turn to him and trusting in what he can do. Have you ever known anybody to move mountains with prayer? Yeah, me neither. So what is he talking about? Well, that's just a biblical metaphor for seemingly impossible situations. Have you ever struggled with temptations or trials or weaknesses? Those things seem like mountains. But God is bigger than those mountains. And he can move mountains in our lives. Jesus is basically saying, you thought the withered tree was something. What about a mountain? Prayer to a Christian just becomes a part of who he is. We're to pray without ceasing. Trying to live a Christian life without prayer is like trying to live without breathing. And so we have faith in God, therefore we're going to turn to God and we're going to pray to him. But there's a condition to those prayers. Look at the next verse. "And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against another, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive your trespasses. Forgive others so that God can forgive you." We forgive others because God has forgiven us of so much. So many egregious things and horrible things that we have sinned against God, and yet we would even dare to try to turn around and not forgive somebody of something that they've sinned against us. Think about this. What if God treated his enemies the way that we treated ours? What if God was resentful? That'd be awful. We would have no hope. And yet God sent his son so that he could forgive and be reconciled to us. And yet we would dare try not to forgive somebody else. There's just so many powerful and challenging things in this passage. Let's use this and think about it this week and really be challenged by it today.